Believe it or not, anger is one of the most beautiful emotions that you've got, but it's likely you were never taught how to use it. Now, that was definitely the case for me. I spent most of my life with a disastrous relationship to anger. And now the truth is, most men will fall into one of two categories. Category A is the man that is so disconnected from his anger that he does not know how to protect himself, how to stand up for himself or those around him. He doesn't know how to set a boundary. And so he constantly feels like he's getting walked all over. The second category is the man that is so controlled and run by his anger that he can't actually harness it, and it comes out, it leaks, and it creates damage to maybe himself or the people around him. Now, in this video, I'm going to show you what anger is actually for, why both men in these categories are actually stuck and controlled by anger, and I'm going to teach you the third way, the middle ground, how to harness and use anger in a healthy way. Before we go any further, I built you a really simple tool called the Anger Compass. Now, this is going to help you navigate anger in real life, in real situations, whether you find yourself in category A or category B. So check that out in the description below. Okay, so what is anger actually for? Anger to me is simply a messenger. Like all the other emotions in our body, it's not good or bad per se. It is simply a messenger from our body that is trying to get our attention. Now, anger really is this emotion that a lot of men are either disconnected from or controlled by. And, it depends on which category you fall into. And I want you to tune into this as we're speaking. But if you're avoiding anger, it's still controlling you, right? If there's a subconscious pattern that is like saying anger is bad and I shouldn't feel anger, then there's a part of you that is being controlled by that emotion because it's controlling you to avoid feeling it. On the other end, if anger is your go-to emotion, and if it comes through loud and hard and fast and you can't really stop it, it's controlling you in a different way. And so when we look to the extremes of anger, when we look at violence, when we look at aggression, when we look at rage, that is kind of this one end of the spectrum that a lot of men have had some kind of experience with, whether it was yourself, you've accessed your own anger and your anger's turned into violence or rage or something you couldn't control, and it did damage. And oftentimes when it does damage, we start to label that anger as being bad or as being wrong, right? When really the anger itself isn't wrong. It's the expression of it that wasn't contained. On the other end of the spectrum is the man that maybe you have experienced that in your own life, and maybe it was dad. I know a lot of men have had poor experiences with their parents and sometimes their father who demonstrated anger in such a way that wasn't clean, that it left damage to the family unit, and the man then makes an unconscious decision to never express that emotion in himself because anger is bad. And so this man then becomes disconnected from his own sense of anger. And he says that it's not a good emotion. I don't want to express it. I'm not an angry man. Both of these men are actually controlled by anger, just in different ways. Anger, really, it's a protective energy. It's a protective emotion. It's an activation energy. And for anyone that's seen it or witnessed it or experienced it in yourself, you will know that there's power in anger. There's a real big activation that gets to come through. And sometimes that anger is needed in life when we need to set a boundary. When someone is encroaching, whether it's verbally, emotionally, or physically getting in our space, anger is the thing that comes online and says, hey, stop. You're getting in my space. This doesn't feel good for me. I need you to stop. Right? And simply, anger can be calm. This is the nuance here, is that anger doesn't have to be big. We don't have to lash out and say, "Rah, get out of my space." It's literally like, whoa, hey, stop. Stop right there. So it's protective. Similarly, if someone is doing something that is unjust to someone that you love, that you care about, a family, a friend, a child, anger is the energy that comes online and says, whoa, 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 stop that. And anger has levels, of course. If at first that anger isn't received well by the person, anger tends to escalate, and it can escalate until the point that it's big enough that it can stop whatever is happening. And so that's really powerful, right? Because without anger, it's hard to protect yourself. It's very difficult for a man to be able to actually defend or protect his mental, physical, and emotional space, his and others around him, if he isn't connected to his anger in a clean way. And this is where we see guys that kind of get walked all over or struggle to, assert themselves in the world. So anger in and of itself, it's not bad, it's not wrong. It's a messenger that something needs to change. It's also the energy that comes online when change needs to happen in the world, right? When there's an injustice, when we can no longer stand to operate in the same way that we've been operating. We can't stand what's happening in our community or in our home or in the world. And it's this anger that kind of can get turned into passion, and it becomes fuel to generate and create change. And if it is used in that way, and it's clean and it's conscious and it's intended and directed in a mature way, anger is a really, really beautiful energy. It's a really, really powerful protective energy. Now, for you, next time your anger shows up, what I want you to do is really tune into it and say, what is this anger coming up for? What is this energy trying to protect me from? Now, this can show up in a bunch of different ways. And in another video, I'll talk about how our unresolved issues can create this kind of defense mechanism, which shows up as anger. And this anger then becomes kind of like a protector for ourselves so that we don't get to feel other emotions that are secondary to that, like grief or sadness or fear, right? So sometimes the anger is actually protecting us from feeling vulnerable. Other times, as I said, it's the anger is protecting us from something that's happening in the world that we don't quite agree with. And the level to which your anger comes online or is unable to come online will be, a good reflection as to how connected you are to that. And for me, it's really important that we have a healthy relationship to anger. So anger isn't the thing that we're avoiding, because you imagine if I'm in a relationship to someone and I'm avoiding them, it's not a very healthy relationship. If I'm in a relationship with someone and they're controlling me, that's not a very healthy relationship either. So for me, the goal, if there is one, to have with any of our emotions is to be in relationship to it so that we can feel it, we can hear it, we can see it, we can understand it, but it's not necessarily the thing that's creating or running our life or dictating all the decisions that we make. And so again, for you, what I want you to do next time anger pops up in your life, or if you feel like there's this anger coming up that maybe is something that you're blocking, I want you to tune into, what is this anger guarding? What is this anger here for? What is this anger trying to protect? And that will be a great insight into why it's actually there in the first place. And once you understand that, you can then discern what you want to actually do with that anger. Okay, number 2, the 2 ways that anger goes wrong. Now, I want you to be really honest with this as I'm speaking, tuning into what anger represents to you in your life, because this is really an important piece, is actually having the ability to sit with your own patterns in a way that is non-defensive, non-judgmental, non-shaming, and understand them. As I've said already, there are 2 very distinct ways that anger plays out in the majority of men. Number 1 is the man who is controlled by his anger and he cannot actually harness it or use it for good. And this is the man that lashes out. This is the man that is snappy, defensive, aggressive, the man that has anger kind of at the forefront of everything that he does. And if that's you, then the question to really sit with is, what is this anger guarding? What is it protecting? Why is it so strong, right? What is it trying to protect me from? That's a really, really powerful question to start with. And as I said before, this could be grief, it could be sadness, it could be feeling vulnerable, it could be from being seen as weak. Whenever anger is coming on in a way that feels disproportionate to what's actually happening in the moment, it's trying to protect often a younger part of us. Maybe somewhere early on, we learned that it wasn't safe to express or it wasn't safe to be vulnerable. And so this anger becomes this kind of shielding, protective energy that then starts to lead everything that you do. It's kind of like it's out in front. And instead of being by your side as an ally, it's standing out in front like a watchdog or a protector that's a little bit hyper vigilant. And so it's kind of barking and shooting its mouth off at everything, right? Rather than protecting in a healthy way, it's kind of overreactive. So the question for you really is then sitting with, why is this here? And we'll touch on that in different videos, because there's deeper work that can happen if you notice that your anger is a little bit overreactive as a protector. And the other man is the man who has no connection to his anger. The man that doesn't want anger to come online. The man that thinks anger is bad, the man that thinks that anyone that shows anger is a bad man. And he's made this promise, probably unconsciously to himself, that he will never use that as an emotion because he's not an angry man, or he doesn't want to be like his dad, or he doesn't want to, be this kind of demonstration of anger in the world. And so this man has a very distorted perception of anger, in that there is no way to use anger in a healthy way. So this man often has this perception or projection of anger that it's only used to do wrong or bad in the world. And he can't see it, that there's actually a clean, healthy way that anger gets to come online. And so because this man is so disconnected from his anger, he will often find that he struggles to assert himself in the world. He'll probably struggle to stand up for himself in relationships. He'll often get walked all over. He'll often kind of just be pushed around in life. And that, again, is because anger is there as a protective energy that allows a man to actually stand up for what he believes to be true and right, especially in the face of adversity. And as soon as this man feels some kind of adversity, rather than showing that anger, he will collapse, he will people please, he will shut down, he will just kind of try and avoid the situation rather than actually stand up for what he believes to be true. So both of these responses, in a lot of ways, are actually an unconscious and conditioned trauma response, or an overreactive emotional response, and a program that's running based on past conditioning. Neither of them are actually what we want to consider a healthy or middle way to use anger. And a good way to think about this is that clean anger holds a boundary, and rage or overactive anger, or the anger that kind of tips into rage or violence, it crosses a boundary. So one is a protecting of the boundary here, the other one is crossing that boundary and it's creating damage somewhere else. And both men are actually missing the thing in the middle, which is the relationship to it and the ability to feel the anger and use it rather than be used by it or avoid it. So be honest about which category you fall into. If someone crosses the line, do you swallow it? Do you hide? Do you collapse? Do you retreat? Do you pull back and try to avoid the person or the situation? Or does it tip into overreactivity, aggression, violence, rage, and something that you feel ashamed of, or something that you have to clean up afterwards? Until you actually get really honest with your pattern and where you sit with that, it will be very difficult for you to actually work with it and find that middle ground. Which brings me to point number 3. The middle is a skill. It is a learned skill. It is not a personality or a behavior that you are inherently born with or stuck with. Now, this is important to know because no matter which end of the spectrum you sit, I want you to understand that you can actually develop different ways of working with your anger that will feel more healthy and conducive to your life and to the relationships and the people in your life. So what does that actually look like in real life? Clean expression of anger is your ability to feel it, to move it, and to choose what happens with it. It is that simple. It is your ability to acknowledge that anger is rising in your body. You might notice it in your hands as clenched fists, your jaw as tension, your chest as tightness, a lump in your throat, a bigger posture. You can notice the sensations that are rising in your body. You have the awareness of that, and you're actually able to feel that without losing yourself to it. You're able to move that energy in a way that feels right for you. So that could be through a deep breath. It could be through movement. It could be through exercise. It could just be through conscious control of regulating your nervous system after acknowledging that it's there. And then it's your ability to choose what happens next with that anger while you're feeling it in your body. And what are you going to do with the message that's there coming through from the anger? And so you might notice that this anger is telling you that a boundary is being crossed and there needs to be some kind of, defense, healthy protection that says, do not cross into my boundary, do not cross into my space again. And so you take the appropriate action that lets that person know, and it's never above and it's never below. It's right where it needs to be. And Similarly, for the person that has struggled to access or feel or express that anger in a clean way, you're able to feel that energy come online and you're actually able to welcome it instead of shutting it down or pushing it away or thinking that it's going to turn into something big. It's the ability to allow it in as a really powerful protective energy, bringing that into the body, and then again, moving it in a way that feels right, and then choosing to do what happens with it in a way that feels right for you. Notice this. Notice what I'm saying is that you're actually able to feel that emotion and work with it rather than it coming through and you losing consciousness to it, not being able to use it, not being able to harness it, just becoming anger. This is the thing I want you to understand. The place I really want you to land is you being able to say, I have anger, or I can feel anger in my body, not I am angry or I am anger. Because this is what happens for a lot of people, is that the anger comes in, it takes over, you have lost consciousness, you've lost all control, and you are now angry. I am angry. And when you are angry, well, what do? You do whatever angry does, which is lose control. The difference here is that instead of this anger being out in front or being so far out behind, it's right here with you. It's like it's side on like an ally. And you can say, I feel this anger in my body. And then I'm choosing what I actually do with this. It's a really, really powerful, conscious place to be. Now, as I said earlier, I created a tool called the Anger Compass, which is going to help you be able to use your anger in a clean and healthy way. It's a simple 3-step framework, a little process that you can remember quite easily, and it's in the description below. So go ahead and grab that now, and that's going to be a game changer for you. So to recap, anger is not the problem. It is the messenger. It is a protective energy inside of you that is trying to tell you something or teach you something about what is happening in your world. What you do with your anger is what matters. You don't have to shut it down and you don't have to rage or flip out. There's a middle ground where you get to work with your anger in a clean and healthy way. So the reframe I want you to hold is that you are not a man with an anger problem. You are a man who was never shown what your anger is for. Now, the truth is, the way that you experience anger as an adult is often in direct correlation to how you experienced anger in your life when you were just a child. So I've created a video which helps you understand how we learn the patterns that we learn, how they affect us in our adult life, and what you can do to create long-lasting, effective change. And you can grab the link to that video below. All right, so if you found this video helpful at all, I would love it if you could like it. If you could comment, drop a comment and just tell me what landed for you, what you're taking away from this, what you disagree with, if there's anything. And it'd mean the world to me if you would subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss out on any further videos. Thanks for being here and watching till the end. See you guys soon. Peace.